Thank you for listening to the Unsilencing Stories podcast. We are in the midst of a public health crisis. More than 32,000 people in Canada have died from fatal opioid overdoses since 2016, according to Health Canada. Previously, this podcast featured interviews with bereaved people in smaller towns and communities in BC and Alberta who have lost loved ones to fatal overdose. In this phase, we're sharing interviews with 7 harm reduction workers, also known as peers, in different parts of BC. The BC Centre for Disease Control Harm Reduction Services defines harm reduction as support services and strategies that aim to keep people safe and minimize death, disease, and injury from high-risk behavior. Peers face a lot of challenges. This has been documented by many researchers, including Zara Mamdani and colleagues in BC. In their 2021 paper, they outlined significant challenges peers face, including financial struggles, difficulty finding housing, and stressors at work. We wanted to explore these themes with peers and find out more about their experiences and share this knowledge with the public. So we conducted multiple remote interviews with harm reduction workers and invited them to talk about the stressors they face. Please note, this podcast contains information about substance use, overdose death, grief, trauma, and stressors that peers face, and this may be distressing to listen to. The podcast is part of a research project led by Erin Goodman, PhD, faculty member at Kwantlen Polytechnic University in Surrey, BC, and conducted under the auspices of a grant known as the Chancellor's Chair Award. I'm Caitlin Burritt, a researcher with the project. A number of researchers, including Georgia Ricciardi and Chloe Burritt, who happens to be my sister, and a number of students have played key roles in the study, and you'll hear many of their voices in this podcast. This episode is a graphic elicitation, which is a research method in which art produced by researchers or participants are used to invite participants to reflect on their lived experiences, beliefs, or behaviors. You'll hear Caitlin Burritt and Chloe Burritt interview Daniel Snyder about 3 pieces of artwork Chloe created based on Daniel's interviews. Daniel describes how each piece of art reminds him of a season of his life and reflects on the important roles the concepts of hope and duality have played in his life. So pretty much just to start it off with, I'll mostly just do intro, outro. If I have any questions for you, I'll ask, but obviously you have a longer rapport with Chloe and she's your artist as well, so I'll mostly just let you guys have the conversation and I'll just share my screen for the art. Basically, to start us off with for the graphic elicitation, I know it probably feels strange. There's a bit of biodemographic intersectional information at the beginning when you've already done 10 interviews previously. So to start us off, what is your first and last name?
Daniel Snyder, S-N-Y-D-E-R. I always spell it, because people want to put I, S-N-I. It's like, no, that's wrong.
What are your pronouns?
I am he, him.
And what city or town are you based in?
Langley, BC.
Okay, and then what is your age?
Oh, well, today I'm 43, but next week I'll be 44.
Oh, happy almost birthday.
Yes, thanks. I think I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a good solid age.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then just for our last round of intersectional questions, if you're comfortable sharing, what is your gender, sex, race, ethnicity, class, sexuality, religion, disability, and physical appearance? And of course, you can skip any that you don't want to share.
You could just put extreme privilege across all of that, and then just it would just cover all the boxes. But okay, you might have to go through those one by one for me again.
Yes, no problem. So it's gender,
male, yeah.
Race,
Caucasian,
ethnicity,
same thing. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Class.
Yeah, good question. I guess depends who you ask. I would probably have to say middle class, I guess. I don't know. Where do the class divides slant these days?
Yeah, that's a tough one with the inflation and stuff right now. So it's, yeah. And then religion?
I'm going to pass on that.
Okay, no problem. Disability?
Because it's just way too complicated.
Yeah.
No disabilities. No notable disabilities.
And then physical appearance is the last one.
I don't know. What's the answer to that question?
Yeah, that's a good question. Oh my. Yeah, so up to you.
I wouldn't even know what to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're Daniel.
Yeah.
Daniel looks like Daniel. Got it. Yeah, so then with that bit out of the way, would you like to start with this one and then we can go down
Sure.
to the bottom three?
I'm not nervous, but I'm not an artist. I'm not creative. I mean, I shouldn't say I'm not creative. I'm not creative in this visual arts way. So who knows what you're going to ask me? I don't know if I'll even have an answer.
Honestly, Daniel, I also felt very nervous because it was a flip side of it where I was like, what is Daniel going to think about this? And so we're on the same page. We're both nervous. We'll just see where the conversation goes.
I love art, so I love appreciating all different ways and styles. So, okay,
and
take it away.
Cool. Yeah, sweet. Okay, so I'll just, obviously because they're more abstract, I feel like I gave you a little bit more of a difficult way to go with the questions, because some of the questions, I've kind of redone them a little bit to try and suit the abstract aspects of it. Mm-hmm. But feel free to like bring up whatever, if it reminds you of anything, or we can go anywhere with the conversation. But I have a couple of questions that I'll just go off of.
Okay.
So for this first one, what do you see in this illustration for you?
Oh boy. Okay. No wrong answers, right?
There really isn't.
I mean, I see someone who's lost and sad, and yet there's a kind of like an access point or a window, the eyes like being the doorway to the soul kind of thing. So it's like everything is kind of out of reach, let's say, but there's this lingering connection to the world, and that's through the eyes. Yeah. And maybe also kind of the eyes, the connection point that you have. Let me think here. It's like everything is kind of fading, but still trying to hold on to hope kind of thing.
Yeah. Do you think that it's representative of a specific experience, or does it make you think of more maybe like a general feeling or theme that you tie to it?
Yeah, I would associate it more with a period of time.
Yeah.
A season. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So not like an incident or a moment, but more like that it encapsulates a season, maybe a number of years, perhaps. Yeah.
Right. Do you want to elaborate on that season at all? It's totally okay if not.
Well, I mean, where would this be? When would this be? I mean, I would kind of say that there was this period of almost hopelessness where I had experienced a lot of relapse and kind of attempts to stabilize in recovery or set my life trajectory, kind of heading in the direction that I wanted it to go. And yet then there was this season where it felt like it was unattainable. It was, it was just this constant repetition of the same kind of thing over and over again, and kind of arriving at this point in time where I didn't think that there was any way to break out of that. And just that general sense of hopelessness that kind of comes attached to that time.
Yeah. Do the colors signify anything for you?
When you say that, the red comes out a lot stronger suddenly. It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm trying to avoid having a cliched response. Not necessarily, like I would have to think about that more. But I mean, they contribute to an overall feeling of sadness, I suppose. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I remember when we had talked about, I think it was the first piece of art that I showed you, which was one of these before any red was in it. It was interesting because you brought that up, of it gave kind of a morose kind of sadness through the art. And it's interesting because I hadn't even meant for it to necessarily show that directly, but then of course looking at it now, that totally makes sense, of those washed out sort of colors.
I like how it's not also really well defined, and so it in a sense kind of encapsulates a feeling of brokenness.
it's interesting too with the eyes as well, that you bring that up, of those are the solid part of the piece,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which again was
defined.
not, yeah, and that wasn't an intentional necessarily thing that I did, but it must have kind of been a subconscious sort of.
What medium is this? What did you use there?
It's pastel.
Oh, it's all pastel.
It's pastel.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I definitely wanted to do blendability with your work.
Right.
And so pastel really brings that out.
Yeah, very cool.
And so when you're talking about that it brings up a certain season for you, do you feel like this shows the stressors? Does it relate to the stressors that you experienced in that time?
More to the emotions, I think. I mean, the stressors were probably, there's probably too many to list. It would be hard to capture that. I think it was like kind of a point in time where everything was a stressor. So, you know, when you're surrounded by that much chaos, much of which is your own responsibility, to a large extent, it's it maybe is hard to define that clearly. So that the abstract nature kind of adds to that, right? Right.
Does looking at it and thinking about the time period that it elicited, does it make you feel anything in your body? Like, do any senses connect to it?
Well, I mean, that's an interesting question. Pay real close attention here. Not off the top of my head. Yeah. And I think that I probably, maybe not.
That's totally okay. So for this artwork, is there anything you want to add about your experience relating it to a certain time period, or any thoughts?
I'm kind of just curious if you give it a title, or if it has a title.
I very rarely title work. So maybe you can title it if you'd like to. Maybe that's the collaborative aspect. Do you have a title that you could think of?
Let me just pick a year. When do I think this would have been close to? I'm going to say like 2015, the year 2015. So I'm thinking like the eyes in 2015, or my eyes in 2015. I don't know, something along those lines. It doesn't flow right, that title, but.
That's awesome. That's actually so cool to hear too. Like, that's really cool. And I think that's a great title. It doesn't necessarily have to flow, you know?
Okay.
If those were your eyes in 2015, and that's what it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, shall we move to another one, or?
Yes, let's do it.
Sweet. Thanks, Daniel. That was really cool to hear. It's really cool to hear like how you interpret it.
It's the most exciting weird part. Answering questions that don't have correct answers. Like, that's not the world I live in. Like, show me some research.
Like, where's the data? But it just, from my end, your answers are so interesting, and it's so cool to hear how you're interpreting them. So
cool.
This is very exciting.
Just quickly, this is the top one of the bottom three.
Okay.
And just interestingly that the top two are kind of in that similar tone. There's a connection there.
That obviously resonated with me. Yeah.
Yeah. And also I think that, if I recall, this is one of the earlier ones that I did. So I'm pretty sure this was one of the early renditions I did. And I think it was before we had our first meeting where we started talking about art.
Okay.
So that is interesting with the color choices that I went for and stuff before talking to you more.
Yeah.
So to then kick it off, what do you see in this illustration?
Interestingly, this, for whatever reason, reminds me more of my childhood, although I don't know why. I didn't wear glasses in my childhood, so it's kind of a strange thing to say. But again, I mean, it's the eyes. I really like the abstract nature of it, and kind of the two eyes are quite different, and it's like one kind of more seems like there's a lot of anger almost and the other, that would be the one on your right, and then the one on your left, I see that sadness again, kind of more like you're looking through the person, like they're not even present, they're not there. Yeah. But that's interesting how just because it's not made clear, like normally when people draw eyes, I think they always try and make them look the same or pretty close to, right? So the fact that there's such uniqueness between the two is kind of neat for me. I don't know, it's maybe a dual nature thing, or there's two sides to that person. Yeah.
And do you think that those ideas of duality, which we had talked about in meetings, maybe in a bit of a different context, but does that link to your childhood? Do you feel like that's what's elicited is separate emotions that link you to that?
Yeah, no, I'm not really sure what that link is exactly. Maybe it's just like a memory of using pastels as a kid or something like that myself.
Totally.
But
yeah,
the dual nature thing is really kind of important to me because I see that theme throughout the entirety of my life. Like many things are true and not true at the same time, or there's always conflict and tension and chaos and order and yin and yang, and it's like it's an unsettledness, I think, that is partially you want to get away from being unsettled. You don't like it, but at the same time there's an awareness that it's like unavoidable. And so that's kind of why I always find the concept of chaos and order and kind of seeking balance is fascinating to me, because I think human nature would be like, oh, I just want my life all fully ordered all the time.
Yeah.
But you would find fairly quickly that that's not a fun way to live.
No.
And then I just had something go wrong like 2 hours ago. And I was like, man, why? Life can't be perfect. Oh, yeah, okay, I don't want life to be perfect either.
Right.
That would be boring.
Right. And I think what impacted me with talking to you about art is that was really, as you said, that's kind of an integral part of you. And I think that later informed the art that we'll be talking about next. Because, like, I remember you had said to me that, say, this first painting, the color scheme, which we just talked about, is more sadness and darker tones. Yeah. And you said basically there's a duality to everything, right? So even in times of maybe extreme stressors, you find there was hope and there was good things happening as well. That's a simple way of putting it.
No, but I agree.
Do you want to maybe talk about that a bit more?
Well, I think that's going to come out in the other piece. That's pretty much my favorite.
Yeah, maybe I'm pushing forward too quick, but yeah, we talked about the colors a little bit of the previous one, but is there anything else you want to add about this piece?
Well, there's kind of like a storm cloud in there to me. And so, I think a lot of times during that season of my life, it was this internal, like everything was wrong inside of me. But, maybe you could take, maybe I could step back and see that the storm was around me as well. But I was just always so preoccupied, like looking inside myself. I notice my speaking's getting more abstract as we go too.
That's okay. You're making total sense.
Okay.
Do you think that what you were just talking about, where the storm being outside of you, is that a retrospect look as you thought of this and looked at this art?
Yes. Well, I mean, this is kind of maybe a complicated thought. How can I articulate it? One of the things I've realized more in recent years is that I didn't have, like, the supports that could have been helpful weren't there. A lot of the support that I was directed towards, let's just, for example, say residential treatment, where people have addictions and you say you should go to treatment. Well, a lot of that treatment was terrible. It wasn't helpful. Right. And so while I was, hard on myself and, dealing with a lot of shame and discouragement and hopelessness, simultaneously, the system around me was not helping either. It was a problem
Right.
too. I think there was a lot of, there was no way to process that at the time, right? How do you know the system that's here to help you is also screwed up and broken and they're not really helping you? How can you figure that out while you're in it? I think that it's almost impossible to come to terms with that till much later, because it's the only system you got, right? You don't have a choice. This is the help you're getting. Even if it's crappy help, you're gonna take it and do what you can with it. And so it's kind of, maybe now looking back, I'm just looking at it again and just seeing like almost a person desperate for help but lost in a broken system.
Right. That's really interesting. Does that aspect of, say, the very broken system, as someone who, was inside of it, this might be not directly an art question, but does it feel at all like improved or resolved at all in any way, especially when you think back on it, of those times when you were struggling?
Certainly improved, I could say, yes. Fixed, no. But improvements have been made, and I'm confident of that. Yeah. So
does it feel like, maybe compared to when you were talking about that time or a season of your life where it was feeling hopeless, do you think that informs maybe a dual feeling of hope for maybe people who are experiencing that now?
Oh yeah, I think that's central to my, like, everything about me is trying to offer people hope in the midst of situations that feel hopeless. And I kind of try to ground everything I say and do in that there is hope for people. Yeah. I'm thinking of a story looking at this just now. So I remember
awesome.
I ran into this number of times during my, kind of years trying to resolve addiction. One part was that often you would end up in detox, and detox has changed a lot, the way it's handled medically since the fentanyl crisis has kind of come into play. But so my detox experiences were really all prior to fentanyl saturation. And there was this, I would get into this state when you detox off opioids. So for me, like, a lot of people describe it in many different ways. One way I often would talk about it is like having the worst sickness and flu of your life combined with like a high sense of anxiety that you can't resolve. Also simultaneously with the knowledge that $20 makes all of that go away. And you're supposed to just get through it, right? It's a miserable experience. But I had very extreme, when I would go into withdrawal, I would have very bad anxiety. And I wasn't typically prone to anxiety, but I would experience it in that time. And so I remember many occasions asking doctors for just some anti-anxiety medication to help me get through that first week, and always being denied because, sorry, you have addiction issues. We can't give you a medicine that you could possibly get addicted to. And it's confounding to me still to this day that we have that punitive kind of, like, it was almost like, no, you have, this problem is your fault and you should suffer through it. And kind of attitude. And I also have I know myself well, much better than I used to, but even then I knew myself well enough to know that would have helped. And I feel like I was, again, just trapped by a system that was like, they think they know better what you need. And I mean, how would I ever go back in time? Or I can't go back in time and know what a different outcome might have been had I had certain supports or certain people kind of like, or even say, given this story I just told, had they been willing to give me a medication that could have helped me get through, would it have changed things? I don't know, but it's the punitive nature of that system is what we really need to do away with. And I just, again, see a person simultaneously trapped in themselves and trapped in the system.
Yeah. It's actually so fantastic that you brought that story up, because I remember when I was listening to your interviews, one of the early interviews, you told that story of being a poignant moment of not being able to get essentially basic mental health care for anxiety. And that started this painting. Not
cool.
painting, I keep calling it a painting, but this art piece. Because I remember listening to that, and it's something that from an outside perspective, I wouldn't have thought of that. And then when you brought that up of just, as you said, such an extremely punitive way of thinking and going to like a healthcare practitioner, that is what got me started on doing the art. Because I thought, as you said, I think you said in one of the first interviews, you felt like they were making you suffer or that you were made to suffer unnecessarily. And that's what got me going on this art. And I think that really informed the colors that I used as well, because I think that gives off that maybe that feeling of hopelessness. Like, what are you supposed to do in that situation, right? That really impacted me when you told that story. And that's what started me on the first renditions of your face and the color scheme that I used. So thank you for sharing that story, because, that really impacted me.
It's really, I've never really done anything quite like this. And so it's quite interesting how, this piece of art can become meaningful by talking about it.
Yeah.
That's a very fascinating experience.
Same for me. It's really interesting. Again, I haven't done like anything like this either, where I usually do art for myself. And so it's very meaningful and cool to hear what you get from it. And it, as you said, like it informs the meaning for me as well. And it's so cool. So yeah, thank you for sharing everything that you're sharing.
Cool. Oh yeah.
Well, shall we go to the final one, which I'm very excited to hear your thoughts on.
Okay. Yes, this is
awesome.
It. Yes.
Great.
Well, I mean, I love that there's some other colors in here. That's great.
Yeah. So what does this bring up for you? And what meaning does this elicit?
I still see that lost person who's in pain.
Yeah.
But there's they're surrounded by hope and there's potential. And I think so in that sense, like I look at these, would we call them flowers? I guess they're flowers.
Yeah, they're somewhere in there.
Yeah. To me, they kind of represent the people that never give up on me and that wrapped themselves around me, and were the ones that like persisted. And it, there's 3 corners that filled, and then there's a fourth that's missing a flower. And that's kind of like, I don't have a specific person that I'm thinking of, but that's the people who just were stuck in their ideological way of thinking about drugs and addiction. And so they were actually the unhelpful ones. I think of a story of people being told to like kick him out. He shouldn't live with you. And then they've refused to follow that advice. And they're like, no, we're not giving up on him like that. And so that person like is a flower, right? Or being told that you should just end the relationship with this person, and that person's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm staying involved and not giving up. Whereas probably in that fourth corner, someone followed that advice. There's people out there who just cut me off and, oh no, we got to do tough love and can't have anything to do with this guy. And so they're absent, and they're absent because they're unhelpful, even though in their world, they think they were helping. And there was a lot of help that was unhelpful. And yet there was a few that were persistently kind and compassionate and hopeful for me. So, and I think it takes a lot more commitment and love to do that for a person who's not giving you any sign that they're coming out of this thing.
Right.
There were many moments in time where it's like, well, maybe we should give up on Daniel. Like, I'm sure those feelings were very real for people, and yet they chose not to, right? They chose to stay the course. Worth it.
Are there specific people that, do you think of family members, or is it good friends?
Yeah, I mean, there really is a lot of people, but there's probably a few core people. Certainly my mom, my wife, and a friend. There was a few that stuck by my side. I have a good story that my wife was like, I'm not giving up on him because I know he's going to get through this. And if I give up, then some other woman's going to reap all the rewards. I'm not having that. So, yeah.
She was in the trenches for you. She knew. That's so funny.
Yeah. So, and yeah, it's really cool piece of art.
So then the brightness of colors, are those what make you think of hopefulness and kindness and, the antithesis of the hopelessness of the darker colors and things like that?
Oh, for sure. And I mean, having them kind of wrapping around the sadness and like, so what's the word there? We can carry you. We have the strength.
Yeah.
You don't always need to have it and that sort of thing. Yeah. I think people like in addiction often feel like they got to figure it out on their own. And people around them that are helping them often feel confused and helpless themselves. Like they don't know how to help. And somehow I think we have to like encourage people to realize first of all, you're not alone. And the people that want to help you, just do your best. That's all you can do.
Right.
Just don't give up on that person. Right. And so, but societally, we don't know how to handle these situations, right? Like I keep hearing this analogy. If your child is in an accident, while everyone in the neighborhood, all your close family and friends, they come around, they provide care and comfort, or they want to cook meals for you and help kind of take on the burden a little bit. But if your child has an addiction, no one comes around. No one says anything. No one knows how to. That's generally silence, right? That was silence.
Yeah.
It's an unfortunate reality that we've created a society that is so confused about drugs and people who use drugs. Right. Like so confused that people who drink alcohol don't think of themselves as drug users. That's how confused we are as a society, that we've set up this arbitrary hierarchy and created this unfortunate stigma. Well, because of a lot of unfortunate reasons, which we don't have time to get into, but we'll undo it eventually. It's going to take a generation or two.
And that's the hope in it, right? Like, but it does make you think of even the theme of stigma and where that stigma goes and how pervasive it is, and how, as you said, that stigma is not the same for certain like health issues or as you said, drinking. There is not that same level that I think still, when you were talking about earlier in the previous art, of feeling kind of enshrouded by a system that tends to be working against you. It's the same thing with the stigma of it, right?
You know what, it's kind of curious because maybe an alternative interpretation of this art would be like completely different from the first things I said, would be more about the way I tried to hide from being stigmatized. And so it's like there's this person in pain, but they put these bright, happy flowers, life. They put on a performance, they put on an act. That was the way I lived through addiction, was because I never, because of access to resources and privileges like I've shared, like I didn't fall into becoming the stereotypical drug addict look and whatnot. And so I was always putting on a mask and a smiley outer exterior to try and hide that.
Well, because you had said as well, if I recall, you always went to work, right? And always had a full-time job and showed up to your job, all of that stuff. People, that's keeping a way of life, right? Where people might not necessarily know. It's
very true. It's kind of a double-edged sword. Like, because I had that ability to maintain functioning, it was like, I wonder if in some sense that prolonged things. Because it didn't disintegrate into total chaos, I was able to kind of keep the things together on the fringes, even though I was internally in chaos. So,
Right.
but, simultaneously, those privileges were part of the resources that helped me get out of it, right? I remember a point in time when I looked around myself in a treatment center, knowing that I was going to leave soon, go back home to my house where my car is parked, where my job is waiting for me. And then I looked around me at the other people in the treatment center who were like, I don't know where I'm going to live after this. I don't have a job. No, none of my family talks to me. And then I'm just becoming aware of like how the step up I have, the opportunities that were there for me to succeed that so many other people do not have, right?
Right. Do you think that informed your hopefulness for, say, the future, or motivating you at all?
Yeah. I've always wondered where like this hope that I have comes from, because it feels like it's beyond me in some respects.
Right.
And so, yeah, I don't know. Good question.
It is really interesting, though, because I think when we first had a meeting together, it was very apparent that you were it was about hope, and there's a duality to everything. And part of that is positive, right? And I think that maybe challenged the way that I started the art, where I kind of immediately went to more of a darker aspect to it. And I think the interesting thing about this art piece is that really through our discussion, you really challenged that with me. And it made me think, oh, like, how am I being informed by maybe ways that addiction is shown or portrayed in an overall way, right? And how did I just fall into that when I was starting it? And then when you were talking to me, it was like, it was about hope and how that informs the work you do now and activism and but how it's always there.
That's really great. I'm glad that that thought came to you. I was in a meeting for a video project I'm a part of, and one of the videographers who's not well acquainted with this type of work, obviously probably very skilled at filming, but he had said he was going to he was sourcing stock footage of people using drugs and drug addict looking people, and I'm like, oh, we're not using any of that. Stop doing that. I'm like, we're not we're not feeding stereotypes here, man. Like, no way.
Yeah. Right.
So you can go ahead and delete all that footage, buddy.
Right.
We need to change the narrative on that for sure. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that it's really easy to fall, even if you have good intentions, like from an outside perspective, like fall into that. And
absolutely.
Go right into that stigma, right?
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
It's embedded in our culture. It will take a very, very long time to, I just pull up an article in the Langley Advance the other day, coroner's report, I don't know what it was about, but the picture they accompany it with is a needle on the ground. Like, what's the point? What's the purpose?
Right.
I mean, not only that, I don't know, no one's paying any attention to the fact that injection drug use is way down. But somehow that's kind of the image that represents drug use in our society. Like, almost no one that uses drugs injects. It's weird that that's like the stereotypical thing. But,
and it just keeps feeding the same loop, right? Interesting. Yeah. Well, we're coming up to 6:00. Yeah, so do you have any final thoughts that you want to add to talking about the art or anything, or do you feel like we've covered a good amount?
I'm surprised that we got that much out of me. So
yeah, I know.
That's really great. Yeah,
it was so cool. Caitlin, do you want to step in at all?
Yeah, and so also just quickly for two people who were nervous about talking about art, you did a great job, both of you. It was really interesting, just from a slightly outside source. It was really cool to hear all about it and the concepts and stuff. But thank you for your time this evening.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much, Daniel.
That brings us to the end of this episode of the Unsilencing Stories podcast. To listen to more interviews in the series, please go to www.unsilencingstories.com. And if you'd like to share your thoughts on the episode, message us at unsilencingstories@gmail.com. Thank you for listening.